Okay, this is the live Q&A for October 2nd, 2025. Just going to wait for some people to log into the lounge here. Yeah, so we'll just give everybody a minute to get in here. Yeah, I totally forgot about it, man. I was, yeah, just busy doing stuff. So, I don't even think we really announced it, did we? We just kind of agreed upon it ourselves, more or less. I think. Oh, whatever. We'll get better as we go. What, the bot? Yeah, I think Slothfather is. I think he. Yeah, I feel bad, Jat, and I know how frustrating it can be sometimes when things just don't go right. And I mean, that's what it is. If you can swing a new computer, if you can get a nice little desktop, and those things work really good. I found, man. Even if you got one for like $600 or something, man, they work pretty good. Um, yeah, it's what it is. It's unfortunate. I wish I could do. Yeah, yeah, I totally forgot. So we're kind of an hour late, but whatever. I guess somebody showed up, so it's better than nobody. Yeah, when is it? Is it in replay? It's happening, or like what's the scenario that it locks up on you? Do you? Okay. Okay. What did you get? Okay. Cool. It depends. It's without getting a little more info. It's hard for me to help. There's certain things you can do, which is like if you have your strategies, make sure. I think I told you before. You delete them. You remove it every time you open NinjaTrader, so you don't. Even if you save the workspace, like if you save the workspace and you close everything, it'll save the strategies too. So you want to make sure you're putting new strategies on every time you open NinjaTrader. That's one thing that's important. Another thing is not using tabs, so you can see. Oh, hold on. I'm not streaming, am I? No, I'm not. So okay, well that doesn't help anybody now, does it? Okay. Yeah, just let me know when you guys are on the stream. I totally forgot about it. I'm definitely out of my routine today. Yeah. So when you, yeah, remove remove them. Yeah. Yeah. Like, so not just that, and this is for. So this is disabled, but you want to remove them. I mean, you can save them there, but just know when you open NinjaTrader, remove them. And I've went on with some people and they have about 20 of them up from different charts and whatnot. So, and that's not just for my stuff. That's for any strategy. Like if you were to use any strategy, it's always good to put a fresh version on because they all operate different. So there's things that they remember. So like in the cache, so when you restart them like this, it clears all the cache files and everything like that. So it's like a nice fresh start. What the heck is that? Hold on. Mike, I think you're making some noise. I'll mute you maybe. Okay, I just muted Mike. If you need me, boss, just message. But yeah, so I guess I'll go over a few things to optimize because I've been on both sides of it. I've had troubles and I've also had smooth running for a while too. So I know, like I always say, for me it was building my computer that I built, and ever since then I never had a crash or anything. But yeah, so it's important to be putting new strategies on every time you open Ninja. Okay, so that's one thing. And I should make a new AutoBot video, and I will. Another thing is tabs. Okay, so don't use multiple tabs with strategies. Okay, so even if you have just a tab open, so I'll just I'll create one and I'll show you. You duplicate tabs here. So even having them open, so here's the thing. I'm not even gonna use my strategies, but you can see how the buttons don't even show up when I do that. So if you go to, like, if I just pick a random ATM strategy, so whatever, there's one, and then I go switch to the other tab, you can see how it's the same over there. If I choose gold 26 and I go back to my other tab, it says gold 26. So NinjaTrader doesn't like using different ATM strategies on the same window with different tabs. Okay, and that's true for their default ATM system as well. Okay, so that's just the nature of NinjaTrader. You can run multiple generators and multiple Autobots, but what you got to do is you got to make sure they're in separate windows. So now I've moved that tab to a window. I've got two windows. And now it's okay. You can run an Autobot and generator on this window. You can run one on this window. I can change. You can notice that if I change the strategy in this window, it doesn't change the strategy in that one. So I don't know if you're using tabs at all, like in the charts. So that's a good thing. And then a few other things. What bar types are you using? Okay, just normal candles. Okay. Normal candles. Okay, and that's good because they work well. Sometimes, like, I got some custom candle types, and sometimes they use a lot of data just because of the nature of them. So another thing you can do is if you right click and you go to data series, this is the same window that you see when you try to open up a new chart, when you initiate a new chart. You may or may not even have this option here. I've talked about it before, but tick replay. So if that's on, it's going to take a lot of data. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, long story short, it's when you load up a historical chart, it aggregates the data, so it compresses it, so you don't see every single order. But when you turn it on, it'll actually read through every order. So if I have it set up for 5 days, when it loads the chart, it's going to calculate everything on the chart based on every single order that went through the market for the last 5 days for NQ, which is a lot of orders. I mean, they have millions and millions of transactions per day. So, you know, you could be looking at 20, 30, 40 million transactions in 5 days. But if you don't use tick replay, it'll just kind of aggregate the data to open, high, low, and close, and it'll give you a pretty close view. But it's more like TradingView. That's what TradingView does with all its data. It just kind of doesn't look at every single order. It just kind of aggregates it. I don't know how to explain it much better than that. But the point of it is just leave it off, and that should help. And then also, depending on the bar type, if you want to just load maybe 1 day, depending on what you're using. Now, if you're using GAN lines 4 hour, you're going to need 20 days. And there's not really much I can do around that because that's just the nature of GAN. So those are a few things to help optimization. If you can, just load 2 days or something. And that'll help. but sometimes the install doesn't go right, or who knows. But I do have some optimization to do on Generator to make it a little faster, so I will be working on stuff like that. But a few tips for you there. Anything else? Want me to set up a strategy? Something simple, like I can go through the settings and set something up. If you want to say, hey, how do I make a signal, or how do I trade this setup? Then you could explain it, and I could set it up. Okay. Generator. Okay. Sure. Let's do that, because it'll play on the states that we were talking about on Tuesday. So so we got that. I'll do it on NQ just because I don't have YM on. I'm just in market replay because it's easier to show things. So I'll do it that way. All right. So you want to add background change. Let's add a couple other things in there. So you're gonna take. It doesn't have to be exactly what you're doing, but tell me a few things. You're going to maybe use the shift signal as your entry. And then yeah. So I mean, there's a couple ways to do this, but honestly, it's built in already. So for this indicator anyways, but I'll set up generator just in case somebody wants to use the background, but they're not necessarily using the riptide signals. And I'll explain this in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that to 0, so I see signals for 5 days. And you'll notice something is that you're never going to get a bearish signal when the background is green, and you'll never get a bullish signal when the background is red. And that's built in. So if you're just using my signals, you don't really need to filter. You don't need to define the background, because the background is part of the conditions of the signals. But also, it has a setting. Well, it used to. Let me look. I've added so much to this. There used to be a setting which was okay, enable shift continuation. Sync signals with background. So right there. But I don't know if that changes much. Oh, it did right there. There's bearish background. Or bearish continuation on a... just the shift signals are lined up with the background. The continuations aren't. Okay. So, I mean, in your case, Dean, you just got to make sure this option is enabled, and it's enabled by default. So sync signals with background. Boom. You're only going to get bullish signals with the green and bearish signals with the red. Okay. So then the other thing was you wanted to filter by the 200 moving average. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you could use my super moving average indicator for that, but it's also built into Riptide as well. So 200. Oh, EMA, not SMA though, right? Okay. So this one's, I only have the option for SMA in Riptide. So I'll actually have to use super moving average, which is fine because it's good. So only when it's above. Okay. Yeah, bullish MA. So I'm just going to do the cross signals. So bullish cross and bearish cross. EMA I have set. And then what are we going to do here? How do I have it coded? So when it crosses... No, I'm just in the settings for super moving average. So what I'm doing... Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm setting up the signals first for when we're above and below the 200. And then I'll use those signals to set up a master signal in Generator. So, we'll probably just do 200 for all of them. I should have a way to just make it one line instead of having all three. Let's see if that wants to show up. Doesn't want to show up. So I have it. So when it passes the cloud, okay. Here's what we'll do. So fast 200, 205. No, this is good because it makes me think that maybe I should update something. So I'm going to do that. And then what was that new setting? I'm going to do that instead. So what I set up is a bullish cloud switch and a bearish cloud switch. So what it should do is once the moving averages get below this cloud, it'll give a signal. And then once it crosses above, it'll give another signal. And that's basically just a 200 EMA. Let's see here if they're... But I don't see the signals on the chart. Bullish. Well, they should be there. Yeah, you know why it's so hard? Because I don't have Generator set up to read these values. So I'm kind of... That's why I created states, and that's why I have this workaround with signals. Eventually, I'll get Generator to read signal values. So you can see on this data box, see how it says, here's Riptide, moving average 1, moving average 2, moving average 3. And they all, depending on where I have my my crosshairs, they all have a value. I don't have it turned on, but it would tell you where the 200 is. So eventually, I'll have another option, and it's going to be called signal value, or sorry, indicator values. And you could just say, hey, you know what? When price is greater than 200 moving average, which will have to be on your chart, then that'll be a condition to make that master signal true. So that's why I kind of use signals as a workaround. But I don't see them coming up, so what's going on here? Bullish cross. Okay, well these ones are anyways, they're here. Okay, so I'll use these ones. So when it crosses the moving average, the 200, it gives me a signal every time it crosses. So crossed here, crossed below here, but then it closed above. So you wanted to... So what was your condition, Dean, for your signal? So we'll do a shift signal. Okay. The shift. Okay. I'll set it up. Like I said, the background's kind of already built into Riptide, but I'll set it up in case there's a different indicator. So first thing I would do is I would set up the states for the background. But I need to make sure the signals are on for the background so we know when it switches. Otherwise, we don't know. So what we do is this thing called enable background switch signals in Riptide. So you can see every time the background changes, there's a signal. Bullish background switch, bearish background, bullish background, bearish background. So that's how we know when the state changes from red to green. So I'll add one. I'll just call it whatever I want. I'll call it background. And then I'm going to add two states. So state 1, I'll just make it whatever this says. So bullish switch. And I didn't spell it right, did I? Oh, bullish. I spelt it as if I had a lisp. Bullish switch. Bearish switch. Okay, so they're green. I know they're set up. So I've set up what's called a state machine if you're coding, but obviously we're not coding, but so this is what we do. So now this state machine, it's just something that we set up and it stays here, and then we reference this later on. So now we've told this setup that, hey, when we get the bullish switch signal, it's in state 1, and then when we get the bearish switch signal, we're in state 2. So I'm just going to leave that there. I can hide it if I want to. It kind of just sits there as something we reference. So we're going to do both long and short. So I always start with the long. So, and I always start with the signals first. So signal tag name. So TS by signal. SIG. Pardon? With like the signals before states, yeah. Yeah. So in this case, we're only taking one signal. So then that's that. And then you want to add the next one, we'll do the moving average. And the best way to do that is setting up a state machine for the moving average as well. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add state configuration, 200 EMA. So in this case, there's going to be two states, above the EMA or below. Okay, there's no in between. Either we're above it or we're below it. So that's why we can do a state. It, like I was saying on Tuesday, state occurs over an amount of time where a signal is just a single event. So, you know, in this case, we can be over the 200 MA and we could stay there for an amount of time. So state 1 for me is going to be the bullish cross. So we get this signal when price goes above the cloud that we set up, and we set it up to be a 200 EMA, except for I have like a 205 and 210 in there just to make it a cloud instead of a line, just so we can see it a little easier. Okay, so bullish cross. Bearish cross. So I set up a state for the 200 moving average, and all it says is if we get a bullish cross signal, that tells us we're in state 1, and it'll stay in state 1 until we get a bearish cross signal. Like that. Okay. So I'm going to hide those because those just sit there like as something that we reference. Okay. So for your conditions for your trade, it's very simple, which is good. So you want to take a shift signal, which is that. But you only want to take it when two things are true. You want to make sure that price is above the 200 EMA, and you want to make sure the background is green. So I need an AND condition because we require this to be true. State. We'll do background first. So all we did was, okay, this menu wouldn't have anything in it if we didn't create these states below, as you can see, right? Background and 200 EMA. So when I click the drop down menu, background 200 EMA. So there wouldn't be any state groups to choose from before we set them up. So we just set them up, and then they show up in this menu automatically. So background. So since it's long, we want state 1 to be true. And that's that. So that'll ensure that the background current state 1 for bullish switch. So that has to be and. So it has to be true for this master signal to print. And then you want another and we'll do state 200 EMA state 1. So this is going to say basically on the left, it says if a signal with a tag name TS by signal appears and the current state is state 1 bullish switch and the current state is state 1 bullish cross. So both of these states need to be in state 1 when this signal happens, and it'll get a master signal. And then to do the short side, we add a new master signal 2, and then we do the same thing but opposite. So we gotta go here, TS cell signal, and state, and then we'll do state 2 for the background because state 2 is the red background. And then for the 200 EMA, we're going to do state 2 again, bearish cross. So that's set up. That'll get you to where you need to go. So that'll get you above the 200 EMA with the background green and your shift signal. And then I could save this and send this to you if you want. What do you want to call it? I'll call it Dean. What do you want? EMA. Okay. Dean 5-minute one. So yeah, once we're done here, I'll send this over to you, and if you don't know where to put the file, I'll show you where to put it. There you go. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what you need to do. Unfortunately, I mean, I know Generator gets a little bit complicated, and I did my best to try and make it simple, but I guess you can only get so simple with it. You know what I mean? Because it is complicated. This is how, you know what this is? Generator. This is basically what I do when I'm creating signals, when I'm coding for signals. These are the types of things that go through my mind, and these are the types of things that I code into signals. You know, you code states, you code within filters, you know, this has to happen within this time, or, you know, price has to be here, price has to be above this and not go below that for the signal to be true. So what you're doing essentially with Generator is being able to code, but not actually having to write the code. It's basically created a drop-down menu system, and, you know, you can create your own custom signals this way. So, yeah, like I said, it's just if I come up with an idea to make it easier, I'll try to make things easier. But like I said, I'm kind of limited. It can only get so easy because of just the nature of what we're doing, you know. So, okay, so that's set up. I'll send that out to you when we're done. Any questions about AutoBot for you, Dean? About any of the functions? Okay. Outcome. Okay. Okay. Yep. No problem. So why don't I go through it quick since you haven't even got there. So when you do get there, you have an idea of what you're in for. No, I'm kidding. But Autobots should be a lot easier. I mean, Generator is the tough one. Autobot is just Should be a lot simpler. So if you were to trade your 5-minute YM strategy, what type of order would you do? Would you do a market order to get in? Or would you do a limit order with a bit of an offset market? Yeah, I'll show you. Market order. Do you want to wait for bar close after all the generator conditions are true? Okay. So then you would check this condition, wait for bar close, which means all these things are going to be true. You're going to get your signal. The background will be the proper color. You'll be above the 200. And as soon as all this is true, whatever bar it's on, that bar has to close, and then it'll take the trade. So there's that. Now, so what you put your signals in here. So here's the thing, okay, Dean. When you're done with all your signals, you got to hit apply settings at the bottom, okay? And when you do, it'll tell you it's good. And then you see how it turned green, settings applied. Then you're done with that. So that's important because then when you go over to AutoBot, it'll recognize your signals now. So for the long signal, when we use generator and AutoBot together, which you don't have to, but when we are, your long signal, you got to know which one's long. If you started off with your short logic for master signal 1, then you just got to know that. But in our case, the logic for master signal 1, we set it up for our long trade. So master signal tag name, this is the name right here, master signal 1. Master signal 1, and then when you click off, so it goes red because I didn't spell it right. I missed an A there. All right, what did I? Oh, I put the A in the wrong spot. See, this is why we got that there. Now it's green. Okay, I can be confident. First shot, good. Okay, so now we know that our master signals are good. They're found on the chart. We've typed them in right. And then we just go to the next section. So targets. How many targets do you have? Just one target, or do you do multiple take profits? One profit. Yeah, how many ticks? Did you say 40? Did you do two? Yeah. I just need something to set up. So can you see my screen? Is that so 3 contracts total, but then you take off 2 at your first take profit, and then you leave 1 to run for 30 or more? Okay. Yeah, you can always move the target if you want to keep it running or whatever, do a trailing stop. Okay, so that's basically it, just simple like that. Okay. So then that's everything then. So we're done with AutoBot. You don't need to do anything else. And you just hit apply settings. Same thing, it'll turn green. So you have a visual. You'll know, you can look at generator and know, okay, I applied the settings, we're good. I applied the settings on AutoBot because it's green. You'll notice if you change something, so if you keep your eye at the button at the bottom, the settings applied. As soon as I change something, it turns back to white because I've changed the settings. So now whatever you see here, that's not actually what it's going to be using for settings until I click apply settings, okay? You know what I mean? So if I go and I go do this and I go change that and I'm doing all this, that's fine. I can do all that, but none of this counts until I hit apply settings. So that's how it goes that way. But yeah, just keep that in mind. So if you're trying it out and you go, oh, it's not trading, and you find out, hey, it's still white at the bottom. Oops, I forgot. So I mean, that's it. You're set up. Everything should be good to go. So what Generator does is it creates its own signal on the chart, and it's called master signal. So we'll see if we got it set up right. It should be going faster than this, so I have to do a bit of optimization in Generator because it takes a bit of resources here, especially when I speed it up in replay. So it might take a while till we get a signal, but until then, I can see if anybody else has anybody else said anything in the chat. GammaX. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any, and nobody's really said anything here. Thank you from last week. Okay. Yeah, until we're over that 200, we're not going to get a master signal there. I could save this preset for you. Oh, did somebody say something? I heard a ding. There we go. Can AutoXbot work with any indicator? So the Point King. And yeah, I'm working on getting you fixed up, Point King. He had an issue there where we had an issue where two users had the same machine ID. So that happens sometimes. So I had to get him fixed up, and I'm still working on that. It can be used with most any indicator, Point King. Here's the deal. So I double click, so it's got to have signals. The indicator has to have signals at the moment. Now in the future, when I update Generator, you'll be able to use the value of any indicator. So I'll just give you an example of two different things. So I'm gonna I'll add an indicator to the chart. Momometer. Okay. So ticking. We'll let this load. Okay, so you can see at the bottom we have an indicator. And what I do is if I go to the data box, it shows me all the indicators on the chart. So you can see here it says Momometer 14.21. So that's the value of that indicator wherever my mouse is. So let me just do a crosshair to make it more visible. So if you can see my crosshair here, I'll hover over the most recent candle, and you can see the momentum changing in the menu. I'm going to access this data for Generator, and you would be able to say, hey, one of the conditions is Momometer greater than 10 or greater than 20 for this master signal to be true. So yes, in the future, we'll be able to read any indicator that's on your chart, the value of it. So coming up soon. Now, there's another side question to that would be, could you use it on indicators that throw a signal that aren't anything that I have? And the answer is it depends. So if you have some indicator, like there's a company called Ninzaco, they have over 100 indicators, and I mean there's a lot of companies. At this moment, as long as the name is configured, so what I did was I double clicked the signal and it brought up the name. As long as the signals are configured like this, so you see all the numbers, or like all the letters and everything are before the underscore, and then after the underscore it has the number. So it says buy signal 2530. So within my workspace there's 2530 buy signals, and this is the 2530th. And they all have this suffix to them, just to number them. We don't look at that because that doesn't matter. We look at everything before the underscore. So sell signal, underscore, and then the number. of that signal. So if they're set up in this format, which a lot of them are, which is the name before the underscore, it'll work fine. And all you do is you just put the name. In this case, you would put cell signal because it's everything before the underscore. You know, X-wave cell label, everything before the underscore. So in the event it's set up like this, it'll work fine. And I might have a third party. So yeah, eventually you'll be able to read any indicator value. And then as far as third party indicators that throw their own signal, it just depends. What's Ninja? Profit Beacon. Pace of tape. Okay, I don't have any third parties that throw signals, I don't think. You know, I got so much stuff on here. Okay, here's one. It's just pivots. So that doesn't throw signals. But it shows up in the data box. Right? So as soon as I put that pivot indicator, R1, you can see all the values for each of them here. So in this instance, once I update generator, you can say, hey, price needs to be less than S3 when my signal occurs, or less than R2M when my signal occurs. So you'd be able to do it depending on where price is. You know, if it's on the same chart as the candles, you could say, hey, the candles need to be above this or below this, greater than, less than. If it's in a separate pane, then you would say, hey, for a short, I need Momo to be, you know, below 20 before my master signal's true with all the other conditions. So I got to work on that. Yeah, so that's that. Any other questions anywhere? Chat, you got anything you got a question about? So, okay, here, Dean, if you're here. See, we just got a master signal here. If you can see it, it says master signal 2. Bring to front. Okay. So this is because what we set up. So in generator's job is to set up master signals. And then we use that master signal to trade on in AutoBot. So the reason it printed a master signal here is because background switch was red. Okay, so that's one of our conditions for the short signal for the number 2 here. Where is it? Current state bearish switch. So we required the background to be red, and in this case it was red. So that was one of our conditions met. Second one is state 2 bearish cross. So this was the moving average state machine we set up. So if we look on the chart, our last signal for the moving average bearish cross, that was the last signal we got. We didn't get a bullish cross. We haven't got one since we got our bearish cross. So it's still in state 2. And then the third condition was a TS sell signal. So if you look at the chart here, this one here, this is our TS sell signal. So I'll double click it. TS sell signal. So all 3 of our conditions for master signal 2 were met. So it prints that signal on the chart. And then then AutoBot is looking for that. So everything's working there. You don't need generator. Did you know that? You can just use AutoBot alone, but you can't create a custom signal. Do you understand that? You didn't know. Okay, yeah. So no, you don't. So if you have something that that prints signals the way you like it, then you don't have to do anything. So in this case, let's just say this is good. I'll show you that. I'll set up a bunch. Let's say I set up a bunch of stuff in Riptide, and I got these signals printing the way I want them to be printed. The bearish and the bullish. Maybe I have them filtered by simple moving average and whatever. I could just do this. TS buy signal, and then TS sell signal. Very simple. The only thing is now, though, I'm missing those other conditions, right? So I don't have the 200 exponential moving average filter anymore because I'm just taking them wherever they show up. So it's a less filtered way to do it, right? Because generator's job is just to create a custom signal using other signals and whatnot. So AutoBot is just to trade them. So if you have an indicator and it's just putting up signals and you're happy with where they are, you can just take them. And you can filter them by time if you want. Since you didn't get into AutoBot, there's a cool feature. I call it time block. So you could say, hey, I only want to take trades at, what's a popular time? 9:45 to 11 or something. You know about this feature? Yeah. I'm going to update this. There's a better way to make these times. Okay, so 11 and no seconds. Boom. Close position on time block end. So you could set one up for the end of the day if you're using a prop firm and you say, hey, I want to make sure all my positions are closed before the market closes. Then you can do it there. Yeah, apply settings. There you go. Time block on. So when it looks like this, that means it's off. When any button, that's how I have these set up, is so any button that's like gray with the red, that's supposed to indicate that it's off or not usable for whatever reason. For example, the break even button, it's off, not usable because I'm not in a trade and I'm not in profit, so I can't use it. So same thing here. So now once it gets its colors, and you can change the colors to whatever you want if you like different colors. So now I won't get any, well, I'll get trades now because I'm at 10 a.m. in market replay. So I am within that time block period. That won't stop the master signals from printing. You'll still see them on the chart, but if I'm trying to take master signals here, it won't execute the trades on it. So, okay. So, generator prints the signals on the chart, right? And it only prints these ones called master signal. That's all it does. So all I was saying is the time block won't stop these from showing up on the chart. It'll just stop AutoBot from actually executing a trade based on that signal. Just to, yeah, I didn't know if that was, I just wanted to point that out, that's all. Yeah, you say, oh, I got 10 master signals, but yeah, it's just, yeah, so this is like the AutoBot's just only the trade management side of things, and generator is just the signal generation side of things. It's more generator, you can think of it, it's like coding your own signals, your own custom signals, without having to actually write code. So, yeah, I mean, at first we didn't even have generator, we just had AutoBot for a little while. But generator was always in the pipeline just because for me it's valuable to be able to create your own signals out of different things, right? I don't like relying on just what somebody else made for a signal. Maybe I don't like it, maybe I do. Maybe I found a better way to better, conditions to trade it on, so that's why this is handy for me. Yeah, so that's that. We can set up, what can we set up here? Do you know much about we'll set up a trailing stop. So if we go here and we just take what you have here for AutoBot, and let's say you wanted to trail, you want to do a trailing stop. Then we could do, there's different trigger types, or different types of trailing stops. So you can use a signal to trail. So let's say, if I got this red diamond when I'm in a long, then I want to start trailing. So this just tells you when money flow drops below 48. It'll be red. So if you're in a long and money flow oscillator is dropping below 48, that's usually not a good sign. So you might use that as an exit signal. So it's called MFI low. So in this case, if I was long, this signal would be MFI low. That would be the signal that I would want. And if I was short, it would be MFI high. That would indicate that the MFI is starting to increase, which is not good for a short trade. And then trailing distance and ticks. So how far back from the current price do you want it to trail? So we'll just go with your setup here since it's pretty tight there. But I would say it's YM, so maybe just even 5 ticks. That would be a pretty close trailing stop, considering that the trade's maybe not going where you want it to because we got these MFI prints. We're just saying, like, just in theory. Now this one, you can choose to have this or not, minimum trigger ticks. So this means, for instance, I mean, you could be in drawdown in your current trade. So let's say you're down, well, your stop's 10. So let's say you're minus 10 ticks on the current trade. And then you get and you're long. And then you get the red diamond. If you don't do a minimum trigger, it'll start trailing the stop right there. Even though you're negative in the trade, it'll still trail the stop at 5 ticks. You may or may not want that. So some people would only want to trail their stop on a winning trade, for instance. So if that's the case, you could say, like, for YM, maybe just 10. You could say, okay, minimum ticks, so you got to get rid of none. Minimum ticks, trigger ticks is 10. So so what you're saying is I have to be at least 10 ticks of profit before I want to allow these signals to be acted upon and start trailing my stop. Yeah, so that way you're not trailing your stop when you're in drawdown. Some people might want it, you know what I mean? You may want that, I don't know, but the option's there for you. You can also say, maybe you're trading NQ and you got like a 50 tick stop or something. You could do a negative. Should be able to. So you could say, hey, I want to be at least up to negative 10 to trail my stop. If I'm like at negative 40 or something, I don't want to trail yet. I want to wait. So in the event that this signal happens and you're not within negative 10 or better on your trade, it'll just ignore that signal. It won't act on it. And it'll wait for a new signal to print when you're, in this case, at negative 10 ticks profit or better. So that's all that is. And if you type in none, then yeah. So, and this is like, you'll kind of find once you learn it a little bit, you'll find that it gets easier as you go. But let's see. A lot of what I'm trying to say is a lot of the options are common. So that one, not necessarily. That's really only a trailing stop option, the minimum trigger, because for break even, well, you have to be at least past your entry because it's break even, right? So if you were in drawdown and you tried to hit break even, it would just close your trade. So that's why you don't have that option for break even. So then I'll just, for trailing stop, because it's popular, I'll go to the tick. So this is easier. So instead of a signal triggering the trailing stop, now we're just going to use a tick to trigger it. That's going to be what tells the strategy, okay, it's time to start trailing. So the trigger ticks is going to be the option you choose. So in your case, in this example, 20 tick is your first take profit. So I might want to say, okay, at 15 ticks, I want to start trailing, and I want my trail to be, we'll say 10. So with this setup, as soon as you hit 15 ticks, it's going to start trailing 10 ticks behind where current price is. So if current price is at 15 when it starts, you're automatically going to be locking in 5 ticks on this trade no matter what. So if you hit 15 ticks profit, you've locked in 5 ticks at least, and then it'll trail up from there. So that's how you could add a trailing stop to this. So if it gets within 5 ticks of your first target, it's trailing. So that's trailing. And now I have advanced management, but then custom buttons, it covers a lot of the same things as advanced management. So you'll see there's a trailing stop button. The reason advanced management there is just to keep it simple. You know what I mean? I figured I wanted this to be two things. I wanted it kind of pretty easy to set up initially, and then I wanted to also have like functionality as well. So that's why I just did the advanced management. I felt like it was an easy way just to get your trailing. If somebody wanted a trailing stop or an exit by signal or break even, I figured that would be just an easy way to set it up and go. But then custom buttons, it does cover all the same things, and then it has different buttons as well. But I'll do trailing stop and I'll show you something. So why would you use a custom button over just hard coding it? Well, because you can turn it on and off, first of all, and there's another option you'll see here called click. So we'll say, what do we have for trailing stop above? Trailing was 10. Okay, so we'll do it here. So in this instance, when I chose click, it's not going to show up. Oh, here it is, trailing stop. So what happens here is you can just click it, and it'll start trailing as soon as you click it. Where you don't have that option with NinjaTrade. There's always you always got to set a trigger. Well, this gives you the option of just doing it manually. So this is like a semi-auto setup, where you would say, hey, I'm in a trade and you're watching it, and you say, okay, I want to start trailing now. You click it, bang, it starts trailing as soon as you click it. Yeah, well, in this case, the button gives you the option for you to manually decide it, because I like semi-automation. I love the automation like entries, because I love how quick it is and how, you know what I mean? I love that, but I also kind of like being able to choose things myself too. So it gives you that option. But what else custom buttons does? So I could actually, what if I were to do signal? Yeah, I shouldn't have put that. Should have been high. And trigger trailing. I'm going to keep the trailing the same. Minimum trigger. Just make it none to keep it simple. Okay, hit apply settings. Okay. So in this case, I could actually do this. So first thing you'll see down here in the corner, we've got two more options: long trailing found, short trailing found. So this is a double confirmation that I put the right signal name in this box. It'll tell me here by highlighting it green. It'll also show me on the chart long trailing, and then in brackets trailing stop, so you know which button it's referring to. If I put a couple numbers there, you'll notice down in the data box it also changes. Trailing stop 465. So it just helps you define exactly what's going on. So anyways, in this instance, I can use them both together. I call this stacking. Sometimes I call it button stacking if I use different buttons, but it's like management stacking. So at this moment, I have two different types of trailing set up. If this trade gets to 15 ticks of profit, it's going to trail at 10. That's the trigger. But then also, if I don't get to 15 ticks of profit, but instead I get an MFI low when I'm in a long trade, it's going to also trail at that time. So I have, in this instance, I have two ways of getting into a trailing stop. One, if I hit 15 ticks of profit, or if any other time in this trade I hit an MFI low when I'm long, or I see an MFI high when I'm short, which is these diamonds, remember, then it'll also trail. So I call it like management stacking, or but I don't know what to call it. If you do buttons, it's button stacking, but you can stack functions on top of each other just like this. So now there's two ways to trail your stop. And yeah, I wanted to get into that at some point. I want to make videos showing like a bunch of different ways you can stack. I mean, you could do, instead of this, you could do break even. And it doesn't have to be, I could just go up to the top and do it under advanced management, but I'll do it here instead. So signal. Short break even tag. Okay, yeah, well, I'm typing it. It's not going to let me do it, eh? You bastard. Okay, so I got to update something there. That is a bug. It's not letting me delete it to write in what I want. Okay, so in this instance, again, as we know, if I hit 15 ticks of profit, it's going to trail the stop at 10 ticks. But if any time during the trade I'm in a bit of profit, at least 4 ticks, it's going to set it to break even if I get this signal as well. So you have a trailing stop function and a break even function at the same time. And yeah, so you can stack break evens and trailings all you want. There's manual entry buttons. I don't know if you've gotten that far yet, but you can just literally long entry, short entry. So you get into the trade right there. And I just wanted to make note, I mentioned it in the video, but I'll make note, really what it is, it's a signal bypass. So unlike, you know, when you use the NinjaTrader buttons, you can just hit buy, market, buy, 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 and just keep adding contracts. You can't do that in this case. It was really hard to code to try and add to your position manually. So I just basically coded it so it does everything it would do if it got a signal, but you're just using this instead of a signal. So in that case, we hit our target. Everything was good. Or did it trail? It'll tell you long manual, stop loss long TP1. I don't know what happened. But anyways. So you have the manual buttons. The remove button. That's pretty cool. So it just lets you remove a contract off the trade. So, and you can kind of do it with Ninja. Like if you go to buy market and then you're in a trade and you hit sell market, it'll take a contract off, I think. I don't know if it closes the whole thing or not, does it? So we're going to do long entry here. I'm just going to move this up because we're in NQ and we got YM settings. So, yeah, and 20 ticks isn't a lot in the NQ. Okay, so we're in 3 contracts, right? If I hit remove, but then I can set it in the menu here. So quantity to remove. I just have it set at 1. That's the default. So if I hit remove 1, you can see it takes 1 contract off the position there, 1 off the stop, and then it just takes it from the nearest take profit. So if I hit it again, now the nearest take profit's gone, and then we're just left with that. And then if you do it again, it just closes the trade. And then the lock-in, you could do, 4 ticks. So that one, it just, it'll just move your stop closer to wherever the current price is by the amount you put in there. So, so if I do short entry here, should be 1 there. I think I separated them there. So if you go lock in, you can see every time I click it, it moves it 4 ticks closer. And then I can't do it anymore. See how it grayed out because I'm closer than 4 ticks. So it just grays it out when you get that close. And then eventually, so I still want to update this as well. right now when I click lock in, there's no other options, right? I want to do things like you see with break even. So I want to do types. I would like to be able to lock in by signal or lock in by tick. And same thing with the remove button. If you wanted to remove one contract based on a signal, you could do that. Or based on a ratio or a tick amount. So right now these are just manual buttons. Those last two I showed you with the lock-in and the other one, the remove. But I plan to add some functionality to those as well. So I don't know. That's just a bit. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Slothfather, you here? Okay. I was just rambling on, just showing Dean there a little bit about AutoXbot and stuff. So, yeah, like you can see, it's more just, it's like strictly management based. If you account settings, if you haven't been in there, that's a cool one too. So you can enable a max profit or a max loss. So let's say, hey, I don't want to make any more than $300 today, or I don't want to lose any more than 300. You hit apply settings. There you go. So then now it'll stop your trading. If you get to more than $300 in profit, it'll cut you out of that trade and it'll stop trading. Same thing with your loss. So as you can see here, there's a counter. So max profit. So 160 out of 300. And that's just the trades I took while we were here on live. So I guess I made $160. So that's where I am out of my 300 for my profit. And then, I didn't enable this. So if I enable max loss, there you go. So now it's going to cut you out. You can also do trades. If you do 3 trades, you don't want to trade anymore. You only want to do 2 trades a day. Then you can do it that way. So this is more like a full auto feature where you're not looking at it and it'll just stop you. Or if somebody's having trouble, like, they say the mental side is the hardest part about trading. So maybe some people might trade manually, semi-auto, and put this up anyways just for themselves to know when to quit. But yeah, it'll kick you out of the trade. So if I was in a trade and we hit 300 profit, it would close out the whole trade. So that's that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like if you try to pass an apex and you say, "Hey, I just want to make like 150 a day or something." Yeah, you can get there without having to try and calculate a target all the time. So, yeah, it's good for that. It's good for getting it at the high point. If sometimes you hit news or something and price goes crazy, and you make $1,000 in a second. Well, that's no good on a prop firm because it's just they call it a windfall, a lucky windfall. Yeah, lots of things like that. So that's that setting, and then you could also do it called ticks instead. So if you just wanted to do ticks, say, hey, I only want to make 30 ticks today or 50 ticks today. It doesn't matter about contracts, so you could do 10 contracts or 1. It still just counts a tick as a tick, if that makes any sense. So that's like if you're so if I go into trade here on NinjaTrader, then you'll see here, like it tells me 0.5, 2.25, 1.75 here, and then also on Chart Trader. If I click it, it changes to ticks, and if I click it again, it changes to money. So you can have, or percentage of the account. So you can see here, yeah, so right now it's on point. I'll show you in the menu. That must have been a new feature. I didn't know they could do that. I knew I could go from the menu and change it. So here's the P&L display unit. Yeah, points. So that's why I seen 2.75 or whatever. And then if I go to ticks and hit apply, It's just going to tell me ticks, 15 ticks. It doesn't matter that I have 3 contracts or 1. It's just here's where the trade started, and wherever it ends, it ends. So I use that same type of calculation for the account management. Okay, so I just put that in there. That's kind of something for me because I always focused on ticks. I always, like when I was back testing a lot in the past and building a strategy, I didn't really care about the money. It was irrelevant to me. I just wanted to make sure my ticks were profitable and proper. And I think my goal was like, it wasn't even much. It was like 40 ticks a week across a couple of instruments. So, but what I did was it didn't matter that it was only 40 ticks a week or 30 ticks a week because I could times it by however many contracts. If I have 1 Apex account, okay, maybe it's only not even $30. But then if I have 10, that's $300. And I have 20 accounts, it's $600. So for me and my mindset, it was never about money. It's always about knowing where the ticks were. And then I could calculate size based on that. If I wanted to take more contracts or whatever, or I could also calculate my drawdown and calculate my my losses because I knew my ticks. So for me, if I know my ticks, I know what I can take for contracts. And I don't know, that's just a little rant. But yeah, so that's why I have that option in there. It's just something that was important for me for my trading. Okay, now you can see here. This is a great example. So now I lost money on that trade. Max profit counter. Oh no, I made money. That's why. So I made $470 out of 300. So that turned red. I'm surprised it got that far. Oh, maybe because I was in the menu messing around. So you'll notice automation is off now, which means it's not going to take any more trades. And if I click it, it says cannot enable automation. Max profit limit reached. Reset counters to continue. So I've made it so it blocks you from turning. You can turn these on, but if automation isn't on, it's not going to take a trade. And then same with this too. Max profit restriction in effect. Please increase. So in this case, if I wanted to trade, I would have to move that up. We'll say 500 now. I changed it instead of 300. Apply settings. And now I can turn automation on. Max trade limit. Okay, I'll just turn that off. So now I can turn automation on because I haven't beat any of my limits. So, yeah, so that worked. But, yeah, I don't know. These are just random settings. Show computer stats. Position, P&L. Just a couple of things for this data box here on the left. And you could change the color or change the position. Whatever you want, so. It'll tell you daily P&L 470, position flat, CPU usage, RAM usage. And that's for your overall computer, not just NinjaTrader. So you can kind of monitor your system and see where you're at. But I don't know. Anything else? Any real questions? I just kind of rambled for a bit, show any random stuff, but sure, maybe there's a bit of value in it, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to update my super moving average indicator to make it a little easier. It's funny. Like when I'm doing them, I try to think about everything. Obviously, I can't think about everything. So the issue I found working with you today on super moving average is it has a fast, medium, and slow, which looks all right. But the problem is, what if you just want one? So in your case, Dean, you just wanted the 200 exponential moving average. That's all you cared about. You didn't care about the other ones, right? So I'll put an option in there just to disable them. In the event somebody just like you wants to only look at one moving average and then have signals to trade it with or to make a machine, state machine from. So that was good for me. So I can update that. I found a little bug here when I was typing in my signal name. So, I mean, it was productive for me too. Because I don't always go back and use them. Like, I'll use them a bit, make sure they work. But, it's like working with people like you and everybody in the community lets me know what needs to change or how I can improve it, depending on how people use the stuff, right? So, I mean, it was simple. It's just I I could have did a better job on my indicators to make it simpler for you to set up, but it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll send it to you, and if there's a couple other people in the group, if nobody has any questions or anything, I'll go eat some lunch. Jat's happy. Okay, you're welcome, Jat. So, okay, that's fine, Richard. How did the other updates go for you, though? The hide all signals, was that good for you? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Um. Okay. All right. I'll try to work on that. I had a really tough time exporting all the scripts just because it had what it has is custom tools and an indicator, and they reference each other. So, for whatever reason, I was having trouble trying to package it up and export it so I could send it out to you guys. So it is done. It's just a matter of figuring that out. So I'll probably work on that today. I got to work on another fellow. Unfortunately, funny enough, two people have the same machine ID, and it's known to happen sometimes. And they have very similar, the same computer, and sometimes they just randomly generate. So I got to help that fellow out there for a bit, getting his machine ID figured out. So, and then oh, okay. Is it fed tomorrow, or what is it? Oh, okay. Damn, that's one you could use the live lines with. The manual ones. Wow. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I can see a lot of uses for them. I was really actually happy to make that. Something I wanted to make for a long time. I've talked to Greg about it for a long time. It's just you got to do things in a certain order. Yeah. 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 I don't. Did I mention in the video that if you wanted different strengths, you add multiple indicators. So you might want horizontal lines at strength 3, and then you might add another indicator of the same indicator, and then do that one at strength 6 or strength 10. So you could get different support and resistance at different strengths. Yeah, because you'll know. Yeah, so then because right now you can do multiple lines, and it'll just show you. Like I said, if you do one, it'll show you one resistance and one support, and if you do two, it'll show you two resistance, two support. But you only have one strength setting for those lines. So if you add another AutoX lines indicator to the same chart, you could do that one at a strength 10 and see those lines as well. And I thought about putting that into one indicator, but I just logically it was really hard to do to have multiple strengths. So I figured the very easiest and most reliable way was to get users just to add a second of the same indicator and change the strength. So yeah. Yeah, so I made you guys I made it so you guys would have to do the work instead of me. That's bugging out. Okay. Yeah, so hit me up, Richard, with whatever you got, and we'll talk about that. And everybody else, if there's no questions, thanks for showing up. And this will be posted on YouTube, so everybody can see and review. Okay. You're welcome, guys. Take care. Bye bye.